very good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. My name is Sean.
This is Alex.
And you're listening to another episode of
Coaster Kings Radio.
Oh, that was cute. We did
That
it
was
together.
the first time that we've done that.
We did kind of sort of practice it.
We tested it earlier
by
accident, and we were like, oh, that was cute.
So here it is for you.
Do that.
You know what else is cute?
Us.
Yeah, but I was talking about
our
Kennywood.
on-ride photos, yeah.
But yeah, so we had a great time at Kennywood, which is what we'll be talking about today.
Mm-hmm.
There's a couple of articles on the website by the time this comes out. One about Bites and Pints, the new... Is it Pints and Bites or Bites and Pints?
Bites and Pints, food...
Festival.
Yeah.
At Kennywood, first ever food festival. We were invited by the park. We had a great time. We'll talk a little bit about that this episode.
It was like meant to be. Because we already were going, and so we asked a friend of ours, and he provided us with the tickets, and then he was like, please come to this food thing that we're doing, because this is the media event, like the test night for it, on the night that you're going to be there, a Wednesday after Memorial Day, and
it all worked out.
It worked out beautifully.
So we'll talk about that, and of course we'll be talking about all the cool rides that Kennywood has to offer.
This was your first time.
It was my first visit. Alex had been before. I'm low-key obsessed, but mainly with the thing is next to the park.
That's so funny.
Which is a giant U.S.
This
steel
was Sean's
plant.
first time seeing a functioning steel mill. It's very America.
Well, American one. That looks like rustic as hell in the mountains. Like, no, the Pittsburgh thing. It looks really cool.
The whole Pittsburgh thing.
So that was very fun. So where should we start? Should we start with, like, the entrance of the park?
Yeah.
How pedestrian.
It's so... there's just something really charming about these, like, 100-year-old parks. I'm thinking, like Lake Compound, Six Flags, New England, Kennywood.
It can be hit or miss, depending on how they're maintained.
It's just so funny how, as they've grown, their entrances, their parking lots, their approaches have changed. Like, all three of those parks that I just mentioned have, like, a road in front of the entrance of their park that you have to circumnavigate. But back in the day, you would just park on the side of the street. Or even in Kennywood's case, you wouldn't park. You would take the trolley. It's the whole point of the park. It's a trolley park. And, like, the entrance of Kennywood moved clear across the whole operation. Now, of course, like, Lost Kennywood, Pittsburgh Plunge, Exterminator, parts of Phantom are all what used to be the parking lot and the entrance to the park. And now you park on the other side of the road and go under a concrete tunnel, very Pittsburgh, and pop out at what has been the entrance of the park for the last 25 years, I think. So
you get in and you sort of across the street see Phantom's Revenge, you see Skyrocket, and then you make your way through the entrance area under the tunnel. The tunnel isn't anything to write home about, but once you're on the other side, it's cute.
Kind of feel
the park is very characterful. Lots of character, I guess.
That's a really charming park. It's
very charming.
It's a little rough around the edges in a couple of spots, but like
I feel like most old parks are. I haven't seen an old park that's completely polished.
I have a hard time complaining about Kennywood, honestly. Some people make it really easy. They love to complain about Kennywood. Maybe I just don't go often enough, but every time I go, I'm just like, oh my god, I love this park.
So the first ride we, of course, headed to was Phantom's Revenge. That opened up probably about a half hour after the park opened. That was fine. We camped out out front.
We were the first ones in line. Front seat.
We had a mission.
First train of the day.
So, we went out. Phenomenal ride. Had to warm up a little bit.
And I gassed this one up. I was like, not to like oversell it, but this might be like the best steel coaster in the Western Hemisphere. I've often referred to it as my favorite steel coaster in the Western Hemisphere. Although there's a couple other rides that could contend for that title. For me, it was my number one for quite some time, and it's part of a very elite collection of like hypercoasters that I can't live without.
Well, hypercoasters with terrain are unique.
Yeah,
they're really hard to get by, and this is the poster child terrain coaster. It's just great that the second drop is the biggest drop, and
it's just glorious.
Straight towards the water, sort of.
I feel like this ride's too good to be true. Of course, it started out as an aero looper, which
for those who don't know the background, it used to be Steel Phantom, referring to the steel mills from Pittsburgh.
When you come off that second drop, it's just this incredible view of U.S. steel.
Yeah, you're diving straight towards one of the biggest steel plants in the U.S.
You dive right... You come down the ravine and thread the superstructure of the Thunderbolt And then you would come up and you would do a pretty tight little vertical loop. Small arrow loop, not the big vertical arrow loop. Like for you Demon fans out there.
Second loop on Demon.
It was the second loop on Demon-sized loop, not the full-sized one. And then into a boomerang, and then into a corkscrew, all in very quick succession, and then a little helix, and then back up in the station. At the time, it was like Kennywood wanted to I mean, first of all, it was amazing that they built this ride at all. And, like, designing it and threading it through Thunderbolt and using the ravine, it was a real remarkable thing that it was done. And also what was interesting was the way they really wanted to follow the trends, not only of, like, the Mega Looper trend, but the Hypercoaster.
Like a 2-in-1?
Yeah. The Hypercoaster trend really didn't even exist yet, but there was this opportunity to build something that was a little bit Viper Magic Mountain and a little bit Magnum Cedar Point, and do both. Of course, the loops and stuff. This hybrid looping hypercoaster concept ultimately didn't work in this case, and so the ride became even more unique and remarkable. They took the existing Aero Looper trains, turned them into hypercoaster trains with these side-mounted lap bar mods and seat belts, which means like excellent leg room, no lap bar mechanism coming up from the ground or anything. It's just like right there off to the side. The big fan curve that immediately follows the second drop now instead of the inversions is just this beautiful, very Steel Dragon 2000 kind of moment on the ride. And then the fact that it dives back down and then back up through the Thunderbolt superstructure again is that crazy airtime hill that's like hiding inside of the Thunderbolt as you come up, and then you do your little lap around the turtle, which is cute. We rode the turtle. We'll talk about the turtle a little bit later. And then just the ferocious airtime sequencing. Just these sharp, aggressive little airtime hills. Just very... I don't want to say haphazardly. They're very natural and delightfully peppered.
Peppered through the hills.
Peppered through the hills. And then you come flying into the brake run, which is incredibly short. The brake run's
it's
like
funny
the length of one train.
The first ride, it was pretty ferocious, but it wasn't like crazy. But then once it really started warming up and we started getting full trains, that ride, seriously, some of the most intense air. And I guess positives coming back over those hills.
There's some great positive G's
around there. It kind of reminds me of Steel Eel.
Yeah.
Steel Eel's finale, but then on steroids.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that was definitely
There's
a worthy
just something
first
so
ride.
special. Because you would never, like, build a ride like this on purpose. They kind
it feels very unconventional.
They
feels
just
very
did
strange.
what they were able to do, and
it's like you're in a roller coaster tycoon scenario, and you don't have any space,
Yeah.
but you need to build something new. So you build this weird, whatever kind of fits kind of coaster, and it ends up, being an actual great ride.
This ride is better than any ride that could have been deliberately set out and designed. When you get Morgan Manufacturing, like, designing hypercoasters in, like, a very matter-of-fact way, you get, like, the Cedar Fair Morgans, which are perfectly fine. They're good in their own right, but then the weirdness, everything that's weird about Phantom's Revenge is also what makes it exceptional. So they're, like, really just... you can't get enough of this ride. I every time I rode it, I couldn't believe that they had the audacity to even build the Steel Phantom to begin with, and then the Phantom's Revenge modification 10 years later just, like, even made it even crazier uncanny. Just the most remarkable, uncanny ride.
So what would you say is a favorite part of the ride for you?
It's hard because, like, it's amazing. You get some air on the big drop when you're towards the back, which is really fun, and the speed when you take the bottom of the drop and the flow as it continues with the fan turn is just like is a blockbuster moment. My single favorite moment on the ride is the airtime hill that's in the tunnel in between the Turtle and the Thunderbolt when you're coming up. Mm-hmm. Into right before the big U-turn that frames the Turtle.
It's not even really a hill. It's just like a differentiation.
It's just like a crick.
Slope.
Yeah. There's airtime in, like, unexpected places, and you hit it, and it's just like a delight. it looks like an airtime machine, and there's actually more airtime on it than looks would suggest.
I really like that the first drop reminded me so much of Viper. It's like the same drop, but without any sort of headbanging, I guess. But then for me, it would have to be the second drop as well. I think coming down that this is like 200-foot drop into the ravine.
Yeah, it's like
seeing the steel factory right in front of you. It's really neat. Like, it is a really cool setting. It's just different, you know?
It's like, I feel like if I had to explain to someone what my idea of like a perfect coaster is, this would be really up there. Comfortable trains, incredibly smooth tracking, smooth as glass, no vibration, nothing. Foreshadowing. We're going to talk about some
vibrations,
some good vibrations, and some bad
vibes,
some bad vibrations in a little bit. But yeah, so a ride that's just remarkably terrain oriented, full of airtime, comfortable trains. Because like you can't take good rolling stock for granted. There's a lot of great rides out there that are held back by rolling stock that isn't the best, and these completely one-of-a-kind Frankenstein hypercoaster retrofits of Aero Mega Looper trains are just incredible. It's amazing how much of this ride is so awesome when they basically took what they had and did what they could and hoped for the best. So I just can't say enough good things about this ride. I love the big turn at the end that's like buried in a trench, and you're like feet away from people's houses. You're just like right there, like in people's backyards before you.
That close to
yeah.
homes? Oh, I realized that.
There's private residences right there. I mean, you can see some of them from the station of Phantom. You come up for that last airtime hill. It's like this Tennessee tornado moment.
I think it's only fair that we shout out the crew, because first of all, it was some of the most impressive operations I've seen in any North American park. Like, it was very, very impressive.
The crew was
They were dispatching
so
34, 35 trains an hour, which is really good. They weren't. This ride is kind of short, but they weren't stacking at all. Like, they had the trains ready, sitting there, waiting for the moment they could clear the station to get it out.
They were really on top of it.
It was incredibly impressive.
They got the whole crowd into it. Everybody was working together as a team to get the train locked.
Lots of staff members like helping out with the loose articles and getting everyone in and out of the train. It was very cool to see that, and they were also very interactive.
They're very good about it.
They gave us a cool shout out here and there.
Yeah.
Because we were wearing matching shirts as we do. We mentioned, because we were, the first people at the ride early in the morning, that we came from Orlando.
We drew some attention.
And I guess we suddenly became like legendary status. Every time we came back, we got a shout out. Staff members
not
were,
to sound completely up our own asses, but I guess we were just celebrities.
It was weird. It was like, oh, it's the guys from Orlando.
Yeah, they shouted us out. They're like, the Orlando guys. No joke, you guys. Not exaggerating. I think we got 15 16
compliments on our shirts.
Oh. Not exaggerating.
No shade at Kennywood, I guess, but maybe we were just very fashionable, like, for the region.
There were some other fashionable people there.
We wear this stuff all the time, but I guess
there were some wonderful-looking individuals.
I mean, there were cool shirts.
Lots of cool outfits.
I probably hadn't seen actual summer shirts in a minute because it's always cold up there.
But it definitely looked like we walked off the plane from Orlando, and so they were living for it. The staff. Not just at Steel Phantom, but throughout the park.
Revenge.
Yeah, Phantom's Revenge. The staff throughout the park were just incredibly friendly and seemed very happy to be there, and took genuine interest in their work and in fraternizing with the guests and making special moments and so on.
Yeah, one of those parks where like the guest employee interaction was just generally very, very positive.
Super genuine. The fact that they'll just let you re-ride, they have such a generous re-ride policy, and I think part of that is because the Phantom, the entrance and the exit are so far from each other.
So far away.
They're like, you can re-ride if no one's in your row. If someone is in your row, like waiting for your row, you're welcome to choose another row if there's a row that's empty. The staff didn't care how often you rode or what, as long as they got those trains out in a timely manner, they got the station clear. It's really interesting. One of the reasons I think they're able to get the trains out as quickly as they can, is because there's no air gates, which it's kind of remarkable.
Kind of creepy, but looks very classic.
Surreal that you have a coaster, a 225-foot hypercoaster in a station with no air gates. and one block in the brake run. Just
thanks to magnetic brakes that it can still operate two trains.
Installed by
Kumbak, Dutch company, famous for Vliegende Hollander.
The water coaster at Efteling
that Alex doesn't appreciate enough.
I like it, but I would throw Vliegende Hollander to the woods to bring back Bob. It's no big deal, is it?
It is, because we were talking about Kennywood. But speaking of classic rides and a very classic park, Thunderbolt.
What
a trip. And a wreckage in my ribs, really.
Kennywood is special because it's like a museum where all the exhibits you can ride.
Are operative, yeah.
They're, and I guess I love wooden coasters. Sean's less of a wooden coaster junkie than I am.
More of a still kind of coaster.
You go to Kennywood and you definitely get your fill. We only rode each of the wooden coasters once.
Kennywood has a good balance. I must say that they have a good balance.
Well, yeah, now they've got 3
woodies.
They have 3 major wooden coasters and 3 major steel coasters,
and a major family coaster. But yeah, Thunderbolt was cool. Again, it's all about terrain here, like interaction with.
I'd be lying if I said that my favorite part of our Thunderbolt ride was the fact that we dropped out of the station the same exact moment that Phantom came down the first drop, and it was like a feast.
Yeah, that was really cool.
It was breathtaking.
The trains are interesting because they're kind of classic.
Yeah,
they rode fine.
Those Century Flyers.
All these different old trains, they were all operating in top shape. So maintenance shout out here.
All 3 of the wooden coasters I thought were running great. I have nothing negative to say about the conditions of the rides, the rolling stock. All 3 run very different rolling stock. The Century Flyers are in great shape. Very handsome ride.
One thing about Thunderbolt is very lateral.
Those laterals,
lateral. At one point, I thought I was going to die with Alex's weight to my side.
It's just so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they always make the smaller rider enter first, and I'm marginally smaller than Sean. Really, I'm just shorter. We're very close in weight. It's marginal, I think, our weight. But because Sean's the taller one, he always gets pigeonholed as the bigger one, which is why they always make him sit in the very back when we ride the Krakatoa water coaster at Volcano Bay. Even though I'm pretty sure it wouldn't make any difference because I think we're within 5 pounds of each other.
Yeah, I think within 10. Yeah, still heavier. But yeah.
But yeah, so I guess one of the only minor drawbacks about the wooden coasters, the old trains. Racer has PTC buzz bar trains with seat dividers, and I still love a good PTC train, especially with buzz bars. I'm not picky.
For our Europeans that don't know what buzz bars are, they are single folding.
Well, they just fold. They don't ratchet. It's either locked or
fold, I guess.
Yeah, they're either locked or they're unlocked.
That come down from the top of the vehicle. Onto hovering over the laps of riders. Yeah. Usually it doesn't touch the rider's lap unless you're big.
The Century Flyers on Thunderbolt have something similar, and then Jackrabbit has nothing. Jackrabbit's just a seatbelt and a large thick handlebar that kind of serves also as a lap bar, but it's static.
So yeah,
you have to weasel yourself under it.
I almost found the tracks getting out of there.
But yeah, I guess my thing is the rides are very, very well padded. They're very pillowy in the seats, but that kind of leaves less room for us. And we have very large proportions, so all 3 of our rides on the wooden coasters, we were definitely snug in our little seats.
But it wasn't terrible. It was better than I expected.
Yeah. I just love Thunderbolt. Thunderbolt's one of my favorite wooden coasters because I just think the 2 parts of it, the old Pippin side, which is the ravine, double out and back, and then the Thunderbolt side of it, the double helix configuration there in the middle of the ride that was added in 1964 by the Philadelphia Toboggan Company. It's truly, it's 2 rides in one. Really, it's a great 3-part experience where you have the crazy drop out of the station and the turnaround. You go up into the lift hill, and then coming off the lift hill, you start the second of 3 parts, and then after you finish the double helix configuration, you come down and you have you reprise the beginning of the ride with a bigger version. That last drop at the end is fabulous. There's nothing like the pacing of these wooden coasters at Kennywood because their fastest and greatest and best moments are usually right at the very end.
And the beginning.
It's the whole ride.
For the lift,
the racer has pretty shallow drops in the beginning, but the pacing is just awesome because it seems to you go further and further down with each drop. Every drop brings you closer and closer to the ground to the point where the final drop on the racer, which is immediately underneath the first drop, is down in the dirt, and it's hard to. It's not immediately apparent that you're even off of the ground with like the racer because the station is level with the midway, but once you're standing in the station, you realize you're on stilts and that the ravine, or I guess parts of the ravine are up underneath you, and that the ride, which is deceptively flat looking, is actually situated and layered like a lasagna almost. To the point where you're coming down that last drop right before the brake run, and I think that might be the fastest part of the whole ride. I think Thunderbolt's fastest moment is also that last drop right before it comes into the brake run. And then there's Jackrabbit, which of course is just adorable. The double dip delivered.
I like Jackrabbit. I mean, if I had to rank the Woodies, I think I liked Racer the best because they ran very well.
This was the best ride I've ever had on the Racer.
I liked the classic entrance to the ride. I mean, they all have very cool entrances. They're all really classic in their own ways. But I just liked Racer's presentation. It ran smoothly. Surprising about the Racer's layout is that a lot of these old wooden coasters that race, they kind of have a very blockish kind of like drop, turn. And while that was also the case for Racer, the cool thing on Racer is that it wasn't like straight like parallel.
It's got
like
some
elements
nice curves
weren't
to
parallel.
it.
Like
the drops all have some laterals in them.
Exactly. And when you have the drop off of the first turnaround and into that like big hill, the hill is like it's shaped almost like a Z, you know, like it's not just like a straight hill. And I really enjoyed how wonky it was like that. So I thought that was.
I also love that they've got two whitewash wooden coasters, and they have the Racer, which is just au naturel, very dark, like a tinted, like a stained presentation,
dark red brownish color.
And I'm a huge fan. I love the old vintage trains on the other two wooden coasters, but I gotta say that it's a shame that the Racer doesn't have its original trains anymore. But I would say that the PTCs were the most comfortable of the three trains for us on our particular visit this time. So there is something to be said for that.
Let's talk about some of the other rides they've got. So what we also rode was...
Okay, your biggest surprise of the visit, coaster-wise, was probably Exterminator?
It was Exterminator, for sure. Because Exterminator, it's a Revertron custom, if I'm not mistaken.
Actually, it might be straight off the shelf. I don't even know. I was fooled. But I think the way the station is positioned, and then you come. I thought maybe the station and the final brakes had been configured differently. But when I think if I think of like Rockstar Coaster at Fun Spot, like in my mind's eye, it's like the station is on the long side of the ride, and you dispatch and you have that straight section, and then you kind of do a U-turn out of the station before you go up the lift hill with that long straight section in between the two 90-degree turns. So.
But yeah, Exterminator, obviously themed to extermination of rats and what looks like a steel plant.
Foundry, yeah.
Very nicely themed, animatronics, good audio, awesome theming inside. It was a very fun coaster.
So much
I really enjoyed it.
To see, really.
In fact, we rode that, I think, the third thing we rode, and we jumped right back on line.
Yeah, we rode it twice.
It was so good.
Right away. It's strong enough. It's a true dark ride coaster. This is definitely I think it's evident when you ride a ride like that. They're like, oh, these people who run this park care about dark rides, because it was such a weird thing to take an off the shelf coaster and make it a dark ride, and it was kind of like, I don't know. It was a cool choice.
I mean, speaking of dark rides, we also rode their
the old mill.
Ghostwood on.
Oh yeah, we rode Ghostwood Estates.
That one. Which is fine.
The upstairs one that's like elevated.
Yeah, it was like in semi-trackless.
It used to be a shooting dark ride, and now it's not.
Yeah, some of the hardware is still there, weird. But I liked it. I mean, it was basic. But the old mill, which they redid this season,
the old mill is so cute.
That was really good. That was fun.
That's a really satisfying ride. Classic, well maintained. You get your own boat per party. So Sean and I had a private little boat to ourselves, and it's a lengthy ride.
It's much longer than I
even
thought
if
it
you
would
have to wait a little bit, it's so worth the wait. The new scenes and stuff, the practical effects that follow the life and times of Harold the skeleton, fabulous, really adorable, and they feel like they were well cared. Like they cared a lot about what went into the scenes for this ride. Everything is practical and static. There's not a lot of like there's nothing. Garfield's Nightmare was a little flat. There was definitely a lot of like flat props, if memory serves. But the new Old Mill, all 3D mannequins and some fun audio animatronics and a cute story. Has it's kind of themed to silent film era, so it's got this like Charlie Chaplin kind of cheekiness to it. But it takes place in the Wild West in a ghost town. He's a bank robber, and it's just kind of this old Western adventure with all of the exactly what you would expect from a Western themed dark ride, but just cute, charming, like a plucky sort of thing. So Kennywood, like exactly.
Another thing that was really cool was how nice the Thomas land was.
Super cute.
Very cute, nice. Very nice, yeah. I mean, not much to
They're a
talk
train
about,
ride that they've had for a very long
goes
time.
All over the park, yeah.
Their Thomas locomotive and train and passenger cars for the train ride look amazing. It's a full-sized Thomas train. Like, it's actually to scale from what you would... Like, Sean and I both grew up watching Thomas the Tank Engine, the original ones with Ringo Starr or George Carlin, and the scale is perfect. So usually Thomas is a mainstay in a lot of amusement parks. Obviously Six Flags dabbled in Thomas, and there's a fabulous Thomas miniature park within a park in Drayton Manor, and all their Thomas stuff is always like a miniature version of Thomas, like a little kiddie train ride. But this is their Thomas locomotive is massive and feels exactly to the scale as you would be if you were a person on the island of Sodor. So I just loved that. It's like a larger than life Thomas depiction in the area with all the kiddie rides and stuff. Just so cute, so well done.
And another ride I really liked was the car ride right next to it.
The auto race, the Traver auto race, one of a kind, wooden trough track bed with these these giant aluminum little hot rods. We had so much fun. I had a hard time explaining to Sean what it was and why it was important. I was like, we need to ride the auto ride, and he's like, what? And it's not it's definitely the grandfather of an Aero antique car ride, which Kennywood used to have one of those. It was replaced by Skyrocket, and we were promised that it would make a return, and that hasn't happened yet. But I guess we'll see. But as long as the auto race is intact, that's kind of the important one. It's almost 100 years old, just like several other rides in the park. It's basically vintage wooden coaster status, except that it's a tracked ride, and not a wood coaster.
So before we move to the next steel coasters, which of course are Skyrocket and Steel Curtain, let's talk a little bit about food. First of all, there is this infamous Potato Patch food restaurant.
Yes.
Potato place.
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. I guess
it's
fry
just
place.
A French fry. It's a very large French fry operation.
Very, very good. It's very, very simple. It's a bunch of fresh cut fries, and then you can put different kinds of salt on it, like garlic salt or onion salt, regular salt, pepper. You get it.
I got a lot of respect.
And then you can do cheese on it, and you also add bacon in Alex's case.
Yeah, I did
so
bacon.
That honestly, the third thing we did, I kid you not, we came to Kennywood, we rode Steel Phantom, we rode Thunderbolt, and we ate fries.
And then we ate fries. Because there was already a line. We were like, all right.
And we'd heard about the place, and even though the park hadn't even been open for an hour yet, we're like, you know what, now's the time for fries. I'm in the mood. Everyone was in the mood. So we got fries.
So we shared some cheese fries, and they were awesome. We came back later for lunch, and I got bacon fries.
and
Sean got another round of cheese fries. Gotta love it when the signature be-all, end-all food item for a park is vegetarian. So that's kind of
necessarily healthy,
nice.
But yeah.
Yeah, but it is. But it's it's not like you're missing out on something like. The bacon bits on mine were awesome, but it's not like you were missing out on the experience of the food because you didn't have bacon in yours.
What I really want to talk about is the Bites and Pints Food Festival that launches this weekend. So by the time this episode comes out, it already is live.
Yeah.
Every weekend in June. It is the first food event or food
I guess
festival
tonight is their first official night.
for Kennywood. And honestly, it was impressive. The setup for the event, very professionally done. Signage, the look of the booths, they were high quality. They had like, little kitchens in them. Their roofs were nice. I'm going to draw a little parallel here and say that they actually did a better job than Universal Orlando Resort did with their Mardi Gras Food Festival, which felt like a big, almost like identity crisis. Like they didn't know there was no style. It was just white tents everywhere. Which I mean,
people were posting
vibe,
pictures.
But it's not my vibe, I guess.
People were posting pictures of the food online of the Mardi Gras Food Festival food, and I'm like, that's it. Like,
and I went to the Mardi Gras opening weekend, and I wasn't impressed. Like I really didn't like it that much. And we had a really fabulous time at the Bites and Pints event. The food was actually really good.
7 kiosks.
Like, it was really good.
And the kiosks, if you're familiar with Kennywood, are the kiosks encircle the lake
that
where
has
the
a
sky coaster
over it.
is. So there's
pretty much from Carousel to Steel Curtain, all the midways on both sides of the water have food tents on them. Mm-hmm. I guess we'll start with the Caribbean one. That's close to Thomastown. And
the Caribbean one we actually didn't get any food at because they had a shrimp skewer that looked really good. We mostly focused on the kiosks that had like a vegetarian food option as well. So this one we just did drinks.
It's funny because usually when we do food events, which has become like a several times a year thing for us now, we always kind of focus on the vegetarian edge of things because not a lot of websites cover that. And I feel like, well, if all these media places or all these media entities are going to be covering a food event, might as well have a little bit of a focus on items that aren't.
I feel like
focused on
being
as much.
Focused on vegetarian, vegan, dietary oriented food options at food festivals is like I think there's a hole in the market there because I think people with dietary restrictions want to know if a food festival at a park has something for them.
And great news, 6 out of 7 booths had food items that were vegetarian.
Yeah.
They all had fun drink lineup. Drink wise, I would say only criticism is that they didn't really seem to take any risks. There were some cool drinks, but it wasn't. I guess when you go to Epcot,
I was gonna say this is not
Gardens.
Epcot when it comes to the drinks. They had a frozen hurricane in Caribbean, which is we got. And
the drinks in Caribbean actually were really nice because I had the Malibu coconut pineapple seltzer. That was really good.
That was fun.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah.
Most of the drinks were good. I just felt like they weren't necessarily.
And like the margarita was exactly what it needed to be. You had the mojito, which was there was at its worst. Food at this food festival was exactly what you expected, and the quality was good. At worst, at best,
there was some
highlights.
Stuff
that blew us away. That was like a surprise.
My absolute favorite thing I've had maybe at any food festival ever were these scallion pancakes.
The scallion pancakes
at the
China Pavilion, the China booth.
Chinese booth. Yeah, they were super good. I couldn't believe it. They were literally like we went back and
I think
more.
these
they
are
like my favorite
vegan
thing.
too, which is great if they're vegan.
Well, then maybe dairy in the.
Do you think
batter.
there's butter or well? I don't know.
I don't want to assume anything is.
I don't want to make any assumptions, but a lot of Chinese food is non-dairy. Usually it's meat, but not dairy.
Yeah,
Vegetarian. It's not. It's like there's no animal byproduct except that there's meat in it.
Yeah. But yeah, they were really crispy, full of onions, scallions, and then
had a really nice sauce. The sauce was like a. It
was like an orange,
like a soy,
like a soy orange glaze that they did put
and
on
then more scallions on top. Just a great flavor palette.
Yeah, I would fly back just to have
tender
those
on the inside, crispy on the outside. I mean, I could have just eaten 100 of those. And they had pork box stickers at the same kiosk, which were really good, but just didn't quite. They didn't steal the show the way the.
And then our drink there was a black rice ale that was pretty good.
That was good. That was a super stout.
Yeah, but it was actually like a really good for a stout. Yeah, it was like black. It was truly
black. Shout out to this. They had instead of having an Asian kiosk, they had a Chinese kiosk and a Japanese kiosk.
Well, they did a good job of making it a global kind of food festival, despite only having 7 booths, by making it 3 European booths, 2 like Latin American Caribbean booths, and then 2 Asian booths.
Because they had, in addition,
it was a nice balance.
They had the Mexico
things.
booth, which that and the Caribbean booth.
Kind of had the North American, Central America kind of thing,
yeah. Exactly.
And then we had Italy, which was another big surprise because we're not big bruschetta. What is it again?
It was ricotta.
We're not big ricotta
flatbread.
people. And ricotta flatbread was interesting, and but it was with ricotta. So you got several pieces of flatbread, which were nicely seasoned with some olive oil. I think
really
it was.
tender.
And then the really smooth whipped ricotta. It was awesome. One of my favorite things.
It didn't taste like
it
ricotta.
Tasted like less. It tasted like unsweetened like whipped cream. Really.
Yeah, it was.
But like cheesy flavor.
It was really
hard to describe.
Really awesome.
Really, really good.
Really
that was
different.
Good. The Japan booth really liked because they had
the Japan booth had my personal favorite was the steak yakitori, which is just steak on skewers.
And it had the soba noodles, which are good.
And yakitori is really straightforward. It just comes down to like the quality of your beef
and the preparation
and the way that it's prepped, the way that it's cooked, the sauce preparation, and then just sesame seeds on top. But it was really just fabulous cuts of beef, and the sauce was spot on. I had that twice. We did the pancakes twice. We did yakitori twice. I did both yakitoris.
We had the crepes and France, which were good.
Your soba noodles were also really spot on, and like not everybody realizes that soba noodles traditionally are served cold
because they're like a salad.
It's like a salad form.
Yeah.
So they were a cool dish, figuratively and literally. Great, fresh, crisp veggie components, mushrooms, and what else was in there? Probably cucumber, some other things.
Yeah, carrot.
Just lots of julienne root vegetables and things, and just a nice flavor palette. So yeah, the Japan kiosk was solid. Of course, you can get Japanese beer there and rice wine.
They had a watermelon cucumber seltzer that was good.
Yeah. Yep.
Again, the drinks weren't out of the world. Like there's not much to talk about drink wise, but we'll have a full dissertation.
Yeah, I will say not every booth had like a themed signature cocktail per se. The Japan booth didn't have a cocktail. It had the Japanese beers, which is great, and like a rice wine, and then the seltzer, but not like the Mexico booth. Had a margarita.
Was awesome because the margarita was really good.
We got two of the elotes.
It was a straightforward margarita. It was really good.
The elotes again were exactly what you would expect for a good elote.
And we're picky when it comes to our Mexican food.
So
like anyone that lives in SoCal can probably kind of agree that we take our Mexican food kind of seriously.
Yeah.
And so a good elote is not always a guarantee.
It may not be as spectacular as like
really good.
The boysenberry elote at the Boysenberry Food Festival at Knott's Berry
presentation
Farm.
was really nice for this one.
But
it was really nice. Portion size was good.
If you've never had elote before, I feel like what's important about this food festival is this is going to be a lot of people's first like food festival at an amusement park, and it might be the first time trying some of these foods for a lot of the people going here. So like, if you've never had elote, if you've never had scallion pancakes or yakitori or some of this stuff, like this is a great place to have your first experience of some of these foods.
But they were seriously really, really good renditions of all these food items. They were really good.
The crepes were great.
Even the crepes were great.
The French
they had the
kiosk
frosé.
had the frosé slushy that was equal parts very grapey, like almost a grape soda-y component mixed with distinctly red wine finish. Wasn't personally for me. I'm not a red wine person. I really liked it. Same with the mojito. I am not a mojito person, but Sean really liked it. So for some of the stuff, I would defer to him.
Well, that's the nice thing about doing these food festivals together. We always kind of have like a different thing that kind of is a highlight for us.
Yeah.
But overall, mad shout out at Bites and Pints because for a first time event, it looked better than events I've seen that have run for years. And they all had awesome clothing with the logos on it. Like it was just like a well branded. It was just well branded. Like the whole thing was really nice.
Mariachi performers. They had a steel drum performer. There was an illusionist walking around doing sleight of hand stuff. There was Kenny the Kangaroo meet and greet for photos and hugs, and he's dressed up as a little chef.
Find our picture on the Coaster Kings Facebook page.
Oh, and the last booth that we didn't talk about, the Germany booth.
Oh, yes. We went there last because the line was the line
had pretzels several different ways.
Which were also really good. They had a chocolate dipped
pretzel rods.
Those were good.
Which were really good.
But my favorite would have still been the regular pretzels,
just
like the one ones.
Solid pretzel with cheese, like a beer cheese. Again, not like super unique, but well executed. Exactly what it should be. pretzels were a nice like shape. They were
and
sort
consistency.
Of, they were really fluffy and thick, and the cheese sauce was great. Again, it's like there's only so much you can do with that sort of menu item. You just have to take the simple components of it and just make sure you're doing it really well, exactly right. But like everything that we tried, the park was very generous. They gave us 2 10-punch tasting cards, so we tried 20
Yeah,
things.
we got to go all over the place. We didn't even finish the cards because we didn't.
They actually shut the points of sale down, and there was food left over, so they were kind enough to just give us food that they had prepared sitting out. So like that was how we got our second round of soba and yakitori. But yeah, it was a great experience. It was a great event. I'm excited
if anyone from the region is listening and is kind of like skeptical about the whole food festival thing, because I mean they're a recent thing. Like 10 years ago, theme parks besides Epcot weren't really doing any of this. And now I feel like every park is trying one, and we have some of our favorites like the Boysenberry Festival. We love Seven Seas. I like the Epcot ones, despite them being highly overpriced and small portions. They're a nice product, but this really fits up there. Like I really think that
the food festivals that Busch Gardens Tampa has been doing lately are really awesome. Like it's just,
but this is up there with those parks.
I'm really impressed.
Good for them. So if you're in the region, definitely don't hesitate to check it out. Get on some coasters, ride Steel Phantom for us a couple times.
Phantom's Revenge.
You know, we always mess up that name. Yeah. We bought some merch for it.
Yeah, the Steel Phantom shirts we got are amazing. We also bought a couple of on-ride photos, one of which we posted to Instagram because we were matching the ride. So like, how
even
could we
my
not?
shoes are matching, which is rare.
Yeah, Sean had purple shoes to match the purple train.
Purple shoes. In our
we do that every episode.
In our weekly
our unison.
Let's go back to some steel coasters.
Okay, so let's talk about Skyrocket
from a food coma. Skyrocket. So Skyrocket, I wasn't sure what I was going to think of it because the Skyrocket 2s are. It's mostly about those trains for me. Having said that, not having a seatbelt in this was kind of nice, and the trains didn't bother me too much because we didn't sit in the.
We're already kind of used to it, like.
Without the comfort colors, it's so much easier.
Yeah, definitely.
Honestly, really fun ride. I really liked it.
Really
I will say that the first
layout.
2/3 are awesome. I think the top hat's nice. The overbank, the Zero is snappy, and then you have that drop off of whatever that mid-course trim is.
Yeah.
And then you have that dirt turn into a corkscrew. Those elements are really cool. And then having like the surf turns and the little hills, they didn't do much for me. They were all kind of.
It's kind of funny how they're elevated. But Sean pointed out that it's like that last third of the ride is just elevated for no reason. It could be a lot more thrilling and interesting if they brought it closer to the ground.
I kind of wish that
in those moments
the surf curves, turns, whatever they're called.
Yeah.
I kind of wish that was like a 0G roll, maybe even like pointed more towards the ground to kind of like have this inversion barreling towards the ground. But at the end of the day, it brings a bit of a nice balance because the first half of the ride it's quick, it's intense. But yeah, we didn't ride it twice. I didn't quite feel the need to ride it twice. I really liked it, but I don't think that's what you come to Kennywood for. It's either about the old Woodies or their 2 massive steel coasters that just kind of dominate the skyline. And while Skyrocket it's a great middle ground coaster in my opinion. It's not really what I was like, oh well, this is Kennywood for me, So we didn't quite focus on it as much. And then there is the elephant in the room, and that's Steel Curtain.
Oh, curtain. So
all right, let's say this. So Steel Curtain, phenomenal layout. The superstructure dominates the skyline. It is an impressive. It's like an X2 vibe, you know, like the superstructure. I mean, it looks very similar to X2. When you are up close, you'll recognize all these support structures looking so similar. I really like how
the dive loop at the end is like the total Raven turn.
How they fit this layout, like kind of stacked on top of itself in this small part of the park. Really impressed. Like when you're riding other rides in the park, you just kind of see this like literal steel curtain of supports and track that is really neatly woven in, and the coloration of the ride isn't as overpowering as I was imagining. Really was impressed.
Seeing it in person, the yellow superstructure made a lot of sense. actually.
Like on the lift hill of Phantom's Revenge, I just couldn't stop looking at it. It's a really gorgeous ride to look at.
Yeah.
Mainly because the layout's so spectacular.
It commands attention.
And walking underneath it, there's several midways underneath it. You see just kind of the train rolling by all over the place, over your head. Really, really nice presence. Really like it.
The theme is cute. I love how much Pittsburgh loves their sports and their home team. The Steelers is like, I don't know. First I was kind of like, I'm too gay for this. Like, I'm not really big into football. Not to say that you can't be into football if you're gay. Just, I love my offhand little jokes. But basically, it just wasn't like, I just didn't get it. I was like, okay, sports. Then we were there, and it was like, oh, this is kind of cute. Like, this is very...
That's nice.
I don't know. It's just very
like the little
color.
little sports like TV kind of spiels and the football headrests. That was really cool. So I want to end the positive notes. So what I'm going to do is I want to talk about the negative parts first, and that is that for some magical reason beyond my knowledge, Steel Curtain vibrates, and it's like bad vibes. It's just
Steel
like
Curtain vibrates like a mother.
First, the elements are really large. Like the first 6 elements, you're like, wow, okay. Like, yeah, it vibrates a little bit. It's not too bad. But once the layout starts getting tighter and tighter, the vibrations will give you a headache. They will F you up. And that was very unfortunate because this is the second coming of the looper, really. The American looper, as our teammate Ian calls it.
Mm-hmm.
And I really felt that. Like, every element was different, even though it has 9/10 inversions, depending on how you count. It really doesn't feel like that. It feels like a really cool, organic, very unique layout. But the vibrations really took away of it. It was too much of a distraction for me to be like, wow, this ride is something I really, really enjoyed.
We rode it 3 times. First 2 times were in the last row. Third time was in row 4. Maybe it has something to do with the fact that we were sitting in the back of the cars.
But for a new coaster, it shouldn't make a difference?
There's no excuse for the ride tracking the way that it does. And it's painfully obvious when you're riding Phantom's Revenge, interweaving, which Phantom's Revenge is just it tracks like an absolute dream. This is exactly what we talk about when we talk about how much we love our old Arrows and Vacomas, and it's like, yeah, they may or may not beat the crap out of you with their transitions, but you know what? They glide along so gorgeous.
It's just, I don't know.
And you ride something like Steel Curtain, and there's just no reason for it to vibrate like that.
And I don't think it's the park. I really don't.
Well, yeah, I don't think it's the park's fault.
And we're looking at the park's maintenance of the roller coaster. It's absolutely phenomenal how they're keeping some of these really old attractions alive, and how much care is put into stuff like Phantom's Revenge and the Woodies. So I definitely think it's a manufacturing flaw, and I don't even know what exactly is causing the vibration so badly. It's just very unfortunate.
The trains are really similar to Max Force, and as far as we know, Max Force does not do this. So, I don't know. But something needs to be done because...
And I think that if they get rid of those vibrations, this could be like a top 10 for the U.S.
Yeah.
Like, it's that good. Like, it's that solid of a looper.
If this ride...
The elements are awesome. Pacing is solid.
If it was as smooth as Phantom's Revenge, this ride would be out of control amazing. It would be... Because
it's a really good ride. And the comfort, like when it comes to actual seats and the lap bars, I really enjoyed. It's just a really cool ride. Like the first corkscrew up in the air, kind of like Dragonfire, but, next level. Really suspended like 200 plus feet over the park. It's really, really neat. It's a really neat ride. Their Cobra Roll-ish element reminds you a lot of the giant inverted boomerangs.
Oh my god, yes.
It comes in from the center
You're
of the ride.
You're standing underneath it, and it's like, oh my god, this is the same height and size and dimensions and shape of the giant inverted boomerang. The way it crosses itself, and like the fabled sit-down giant boomerang that was supposedly going to come to Fiesta Texas. We're like, oh my god, we're looking at it. Like, we're looking at the giant... The 200
It has a sea serpent roll, which is kind of rare. There's not that many of them.
Yeah.
Has a stall, a really, really nice dive loop. So overall, layout-wise, like the corkscrew and the final cutback, really, really impressive ride. Really fun layout. I really like the way it fits and towering over Kennywood. It is just that vibration for me.
I just think Kennywood deserves better. They need to... I hope that maintenance and... I just hope that it gets fixed and that they pursue it. I think what's gonna happen is it will get worse. It'll get to the point where it's unbearable, and then they'll have no choice.
And the manufacturer's gonna step up to the plate to get it fixed.
I expect SNS to follow through because we love SNS, obviously. So we expect the issue to be addressed. For now, the ride needs to be open. Because the general public, and I've talked to a lot of enthusiasts that they can't relate. They don't think that the vibration, either they didn't notice it as much or it doesn't. For me, it made me almost nauseous. Like coming back in the brake run each time, the vibration made me feel like queasy almost, and I would have like a slight headache. It wasn't like coming off of Diamondback at Kings Island with a migraine, but it was still annoying, and there's just no reason for a brand new ride to do this. So whatever it takes, like I just hope that in the future something will be different. They may need to do something major with the wheel assembly design on the coaster. It just has a very prototypey feel to it, and I think it's nothing that can't be fixed. It's just, right now, the ride needs to be open. We were really lucky that we rode it because it had been closed for a year and a half.
I think the vibrations are no issue, and I think the park's worked on it as hard as they can. But
the important thing is that the ride's
I'm still really glad we rode it, though. And
the ride is
people love
popular, it's successful, and it's bringing, I think it's drawing a lot of attention. It's bringing people in, and people are excited about it, and that's what matters. Like,
and even our Uber drivers were like talking about it. And I will say that I look forward to coming back, not just for fans events, but also for Steel Curtain, because I do truly believe that once they get this problem figured out, it's going to be like a really good ride. It's going to be their X2 for years to come. I mean, it is by far the largest thing there.
I guess I should say
immensely large.
Absolutely.
It really dwarfs A Fantasy Revenge.
Already
Don't you feel that way?
Anticipate.
Yeah, you're like Red Fantasy Revenge. Like, wow, this way bigger coasters right over there.
It's the ride is like stupid majestic. Like it is.
I know. I'm like obsessed with how gracious.
So cool.
Even the layout looks. So yeah, we like the ride. And I'm sure we could love it.
We're big
fans. Up trains.
We're sports fans now, I guess.
Well, no, I'm the roller coaster fan. The theme could have been anything in my mind, but overall,
well, now we're Steel Curtain fans.
We're Steel Curtain fans,
but only
the Steel Factory next.
Only from the stands.
That's right.
Fans from the stands.
Fans from the stands.
We love taking pictures of Steel Curtain.
Yeah, we're going to have lots of cool pictures for you guys to check out on thecoasterkings.com in our Kennywood articles, but also, of course, on our social media, our Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the good stuff.
A ride that we were so excited to ride for nostalgic purposes was Aero 360.
Oh, yes.
It's a very nice compliment to Steel Curtain, that black and yellow.
I know. It's almost like they were built together.
I guess I'd never made the connection that, like, Kennywood's yellow arrow with the black text is like, everything is black and yellow everywhere in Pittsburgh. It's all black and gold because it's the Steelers. So there is a very cohesive black and yellow component throughout the park. Aero 360 is a classic for us because of Hammerhead Shark at Six Flags Discovery Kingdom. I'm officially old.
There's also a really good one.
I actually can't ride
Seabreeze.
Oh yeah,
the one at Seabreeze is really nice.
Yeah,
it's
the
like
single hammer
right
one.
over by the Lux Flume.
But yeah, that might be my last Zemproa Hawk. I don't think I can ride. Like, it was a great.
That ride cycle.
I enjoyed riding it. It was
spicy.
a good ride. Yeah, spicy ride cycle. By the end of it, I was like out of breath, and I was like, okay. There was a lot of negative feedback about the rides that were retired before this season. The Paratrooper, which there's no trace of the Paratrooper. It's just a field of grass with some trees. Kangaroo's plot is still sitting there empty. Like, it's apparent to me that they're probably going to replace it with another ride. Byron Curve's old spot, they have repurposed a lot of that spot as backstage. They put a nice fence up between the two structures, like the 4D theater building and stuff. And right now they have a food truck there, which is kind of interesting. A lot of people are really pissed that these rides closed. I think people are looking at it the wrong way. Kennywood is single-handedly responsible for millions of people being able to enjoy a kangaroo ride or a Byron Curve or a Paratrooper ride. Like, the reason that I know what a kangaroo ride is because Kennywood had one and I rode it, and
no one else has one.
I'm lucky to be part of that group of people who were able to do it. Of course, it's sad that they're gone, It's sad that there's only one Barron Curve left in the U.S., but I don't think the park deserves the amount of hate that they're getting for retiring these rides.
The thing we talked about when we were there, it's like everyone in Western Pennsylvania has so much to say about Kennywood removing these things. But really, we should be celebrating the fact that Kennywood was the last to operate some of these rides.
They were holding on to
that they were the ones that were putting in the money and effort to maintain these classic attractions because no other park was doing that. Mm-hmm. And so for that, Kennywood gets my credit.
Everybody's an armchair CEO, and they think they know exactly how to run an amusement park that's torn between being this operating amusement park ride museum and being a park with modern attractions that will continue to attract people. So I feel like it's so easy to just assume that you know all of the circumstances and to hold parks accountable for things, even if you don't see the whole picture. And some people, I don't doubt that there's also people who've done their research, and if you're not thrilled with how a park is handling things, over the years, like there's time and place and room for conversations like that. But when I think of Kennywood, I guess I'm not thinking about the Kangaroo and the Barron Curve being retired. I'm thinking about Steel Curtain and like what a cool and successful rollout that ride is. And I'm thinking about Phantom's Revenge being so spectacular and unique. And I'm thinking about the Old Mill relaunch and how what a pitch perfect ride the Old Mill is these days. And what?
No.
You see something? Oh, okay. I guess I'm just thinking about the turtle. Everybody is really, really upset that the Tumblebug at Conneaut Lake Park was demolished, and that's a conversation for another time. Tumblebug is a little bit like Steel Curtain for us. I love the Tumblebug. It's not really for us. I had a lot of fun taking pictures of it. Not really my gig, but you know what? It's a cool ride. It's unique. And, it's just interesting. And it's like, I'm just so much more focused on the things that Kennywood does have. I don't feel like the mid-century flat rides that have come and gone from Kennywood are the rides that I'm really losing sleep over. They've got several rides that are 100 years old. And I think those are the ones that are getting the budget, the operating budget, the focus, the interest, and those are the ones that I'm really that I think are really objectively the most valuable assets in this park. So I don't know. I hope the Barron Curve that wound up at Knoebels somehow. I would love to see that happen. I hope that's a thing. I also kind of wonder how much time we have left with the one at Great America, but I guess we'll see. What else did we ride? Is that it?
I think that's about it.
Pretty much everything. Park has a really nice collection of rides. I do miss the log flume. Personally, I like the log flume a lot. I think Steel Curtain is a worthy replacement overall, objectively. But for me, I would rather personally have the log flume. But I just love log flumes. It is what it is. They've got some cute old flats there. They still have some cool mid-century stuff going on. The bumper cars and the Mack Music Express are such a German funfair time warp blast from the past. It's so adorable. The park, I just can't even think of all of the amazing things that this park has in one thought. Noah's Ark is closed right now because of COVID, and that's fine. We'll do that next time. It's such a cute little, again, it's 100 years old. It's priceless. It's so adorable. Black Widow was closed. We've ridden plenty of Zamproa Discoveries. We always have time for another one, so next time we go to Kennywood, we'll ride it if it's open. The Whip was open. We rode the one at Knoebels a few years back. We didn't make it to this one. But, I don't know. I really love this park. I still love this park. This is my 4th or 5th time, and I feel the same way that I did when I first went. It's just a glorious place, and I think the balancing act of keeping the old, building the new, making hard choices and sacrifices, and trying to please everyone, I think they're doing exactly as well as they can.
Yeah, I really had a good time for being a first-time visitor. I was impressed with the park, so I look forward to going back.
Yep.
I'm sure we will. And I also look forward to getting some more reviews on Apple Podcasts. I was going to say
Apple
Podcasts.
Reviews.
Leave us a review, preferably 5 out of 5 stars. We would love nothing more than to grow our audience by getting more reviews and, getting the word out there. If you don't listen on that platform, that's fine. Thank you for choosing to listen to us anywhere.
Yeah.
Make sure to go visit thecoastalkings.com. Lots of new content. The next 2 weeks we'll be back with Sven from Harelbeke, Belgium. We'll be listening. We'll be talking about some of the world's biggest parks and what we would add to the parks versus what we did 2 episodes ago, what we would distract.
Yeah.
So or detract.
Subtract.
Any of these words.
Remove.
Add.
Take away.
Cool. Anyway, so that's what we're doing the next couple of weeks. And so long. That's all I have for today.
Bye-bye.
Have a good night or morning.